And that's Raven West, Nathan McCain and Laura Carvalho leading the charge here at Strada Alpina.
Having never played a grid game before, I went into this one with no expectations. That being said, from the game's opening flags, I enjoyed every second of it. The gameplay is a solid blend of simulator-style car handling and the more arcadey-style races a la Midnight Club or Need for Speed. The story is told through a unique approach of mixed reality acting along with digital backgrounds. The performances are outstanding, the characters are fun and memorable, although the impact is lost on me a little bit as I haven't played any of the prior series. Where the game shines the most is its perfect balance between simulation and arcade. In the story mode, you jump from race to race, driving multiple different cars and constantly switching up your drive styles to match the particular event that you're in. Now, I chose to just enjoy myself in my playthrough and opted to make sure that the damage was stuck to cosmetic only, giving me a little bit of the power fantasy that I would crave in these kinds of games. I ascribed to Robert Duvall's character from Days of Thunder's mantra, rubbin' is racing, though honestly sometimes I do a little bit more like crashing is racing, but you know, as long as I ended up on 4 wheels, we're good. Also, as you might have guessed, I chose to not use the manual transmission option. I did, however, choose to dial in my tuning on my cars, which is something I typically don't do in these kinds of games. I'm used to a more arcadey racer, and something with a little bit of the simulation style stuff from Gran Turismo and the traditional Forza entry was a nice change to the pace here. Grid Legends manages to be one of the more difficult racing games that I've played, if only for the fact that in the story mode you're constantly shifting your drive style and racing tactics from race to race. In one race you may be driving a Ford Mustang, the next you're driving an Ariel Atom, and then onto a Baja style truck. Switching between them means you're constantly having to readjust the way that you're playing, your race style, and figure out how to make the vehicles do what you want them to at a second's notice. The storyline for the game is really well put together. It's compelling throughout, and I feel like it is something that you don't see very often. I think it was a really interesting idea to do kind of a throwback thing by allowing live action video to tell most of the story. It's presented to you in a docu-series style sports documentary, which makes for a fun watch even if you're not paying that much attention. This is both innovative and a little retro. From a visual standpoint, Grid Legends is a feast for the senses. Great audio design allows for the pumping of the engines to really come through in strides. The soundtrack keeps you moving and has a lot of pump to it itself, and the visuals are outstanding, especially when playing on a 4K monitor. CODEMASTERs really dialed in their technique of making a believable world with fantastically fast cars and making it all flow amazingly smooth. I did notice a few instances of stutter and pop-in with the shadows, in particular on some of the earlier races, but for the most part the story mode had outstanding visuals throughout. In career mode, I found myself a little more railroaded into one particular style of driving at a time. Oftentimes you'd find yourself racing through unrelated events to unlock new events that had nothing to do with the prior event. It made a lot of the racing feel disconnected and the career overall feel disjointed. It was nice being able to earn points to put towards traits and abilities for my crew, but ultimately I felt that it was a little shallow. I really only have a couple things that pumped the brakes when it came to the game's overall presentation. First was the constant reminder that Yumi is supposed to be the best driver on the team, and yet you constantly dust her. Playing on the regular difficulty, I had no trouble taking her down. Second is that I know it was the intent of the developer to force you to adapt to your styles, but it became frustrating throughout the storyline to constantly be shifting between vehicles, in particular going from one of the faster, more well-behaved vehicles to the Baja-style trucks that just didn't handle very well. All in all, I think that Codemaster has found a perfect niche spot for themselves, between the Forza Horizons and the GTs of the world, allowing themselves to find a niche audience that loves both the simulation-style racing and the arcade-style races. You should definitely give this one a shot if you're a fan of the series or a fan of racing games in general. We give Grid Legends a 7 out of 10.